This episode of Where's My Money is brought to you by Enable Me. If you've got big money goals in 2026, you need the right support to make them happen. Chatting to the team at Enable Me, it's a great place to start. For more info on their financial coaching and strategic advice, head to enable.me. Oh, welcome back. So you bought the house, the keys are in your hand, the mortgage is kicked in. Now comes the big question, what did you actually do to the place? Because a lot of people buy a home and immediately start spending money. New kitchen, new bathroom, new deck, new everything, constant trips to Bunnings. But here's the catch. Not every upgrade adds value. Some renovations return most of what you spend. Others are more lifestyle choices that you'll probably never see again when you sell. So on part 3 of our toolkit series, the Ultimate Homebuyer's Guide, we're answering the question every new homeowner asks. What improvements actually increase the value of your home? You might recognise the face or name from the Block NZ. Interior design expert Jason Bonham joins us to break down the upgrades that matter, the ones that don't, and the mistakes homeowners make when they get renovation fever.
Where's My Money Toolkit? The Ultimate Homebuyer's Guide, Part 3.
Welcome digitally to the Where's My Money studio, Jason Bonham. It's really nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
So the first mistake new homeowners make, they buy a house and they kind of immediately want to change everything. They want to personalize it and maybe add value to the asset that they've just bought. What's the biggest mistake you see new homeowners making when it comes to renos?
Well, I think it's exactly just that. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, you take on this property and you see all the things that are wrong with it potentially, or you can see all the potential that the property has in terms of adding capital value. But at the same time, I think it's best to sort of just pull back a little bit, stay in the space for a little while, and then really understand what the space needs to do and get a better understanding of the home and how it functions and how you live within it, first and foremost. Very easy to go charging off and think I need to do this and do that. Now, it depends if it's going to be a renovation project or whether or not you're doing it as a swish and flick, or whether or not it's going to be a property that you're going to be living in for the first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years type thing.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest mistakes is you look at the sort of the wider picture and all the things that need doing. The biggest capital add value, I think, in any property is always kitchens and bathrooms. Absolutely front of mind. And then you've got the rest of the cosmetic stuff is where people can actually make and do a lot of that stuff themselves. For example, you could do your own painting. You can, a lot of the time also have a lot of value by going around the suppliers. A lot of the time they have end of line things like that as well, so you can pick up things quite inexpensively and do a lot of these sort of things yourself. So I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they throw, they take out these mortgages, they get these properties, they think, well, I'm going to allow for this amount of time and I'm going to allow this amount of money to get these things done, but don't do it all at once. I would say just get the property, get in there, assess what needs to be done in order of priority, and then allocate budget accordingly into the things that are going to move the dial the most in terms of the capital add.
So living in it for starters is probably really important to see how people can function in the space before then going, I need a door there and that wall needs to be red.
Well, it really depends on what type of property it is, And
Yeah.
For example, if it's going to be one of those things where you put a dilapidated, rundown piece of shit, well then, obviously you're not going to live in it. You're going to want to, budget for living somewhere else while those renovations take place to get it up to a standard that it is livable. If it's just whether or not people want to throw a lot of money at it or not,
Yeah. And you said that, kitchens and bathrooms are the biggest value adds. That always seems to have been the case. Why is that?
Because those are the biggest high ticket items in terms of what you would spend on a property. And for example, kitchens, appliances, stone, stainless steel, all those different things, the electrical component that goes all of that. And then of course with plumbing. So things like stone, tile, sanitary ware, all these different things add up to quite a large ticket item. And on average now you're looking at about like minimum spend for a decent bathroom these days is going to cost you anywhere from 35 to 45,000. And that's kind of base level.
In terms of adding value though, is it because that's where the dream gets sold the most? They see themselves in that kitchen cooking, and they see themselves walking out of the shower in that bathroom and whacking a towel on. Like, is it the emotional value add that really pumps up the value?
I don't think it's an emotional ad. I think it's really more around practicality, functionality, to make sure that you've got really nice water pressure, that you can actually take a really nice shower, that the lighting's really nice. It's those sort of daily experiences that make life every day just that little bit nicer,
Yeah.
So having nicer spaces where you spend a lot of your time, whether it be the bathroom and also the kitchen, and of course bedrooms, living areas when you're going to be entertaining, how big are those spaces, how many people are going to be coming over, how regularly, is where you're going to allocate budget the most in terms of how you live your life daily in a space.
Yeah. Okay, so if someone came to you and said, Jason, I've got somewhere between 20 and 50K to spend, what should I do? It's obviously very house dependent, but what's your sort of go-to that's going to tick most boxes most of the time and turn a $1 million house into a $1.2 million house real quick?
Well, look, put it this way. I've done this before where I've had investment properties and, for example, I had a house just not so long ago, maybe I think I sold it last year or the year before the, that Bright Lane thing came in and made some really decent coin off it. And we only spent $50,000 on it. We put in a cheap Bunnings kitchen. We did, some Bunnings bathrooms, which was super easy. We did some carpet paint, tucked in some air conditioning, updated the lighting, tidied up the garden. Job done, made 250 grand.
Wow. So it's a 1 to 5 return and a lot of that stuff you can do yourself, particularly landscaping, cleaning up a garden is just mucking in and getting it done, right?
Get out the water blaster, dig up the gardens, put down some new lawn, it's really not that hard,
Yeah. Yeah.
So a little bit of elbow grease and a bit of back breaking is certainly going to pay dividends when you're not having to pay for labor.
Yeah, totally.
And everything you spend is always going to eat into the bottom line, so it's about saving every single dollar when it comes to, and, making money out of it, obviously your first property.
Absolutely. What about at the other end? If someone's only got 5K, what do you reckon they should do? Is it just a lick of paint to try and get it back into the 21st century?
Keep saving.
Keep saving.
$5 wouldn't buy you much these days. I don't know what $5,000 would buy you these days, to be quite honest. I really couldn't tell you what $5,000 would buy you. I mean, it'd probably buy you some paint.
Yeah.
And that's, it might buy you, I don't know, a couple of rugs or something. But I mean, really, I don't know where $5,000 would go, to be fair.
Yeah, okay.
Everything's so expensive nowadays. And I mean, you blink and, you can get a plumber around, put in a new toilet and vanity. It's $5,000 right there,
Yeah, totally.
And that's sort of off the peak type stuff. So realistically, $5,000, keep saving until you've got a wad of cash you can actually do something decent with and actually make an impact with, because $5,000 ain't going to go very far. I mean, I'd go so far as to say you'd probably buy some paint and do a bit of paint work,
Yeah.
Buy a water blaster and, clean the house and get it looking spick and span type thing. But $5,000 ain't going to go far.
Are there renovations you've seen where people either overcapitalize, they put way too much into a property that just turns it into some weird thing that no one's going to buy because, I don't know, they put a pool in a 2-bedroom house and you should have put more effort into making the house bigger, or something that's too personalized? Like, is that a trap people can fall into?
Yeah, I think it can be sometimes. I think everyone has a particular style or you see a lot of, people, I like that French country look, or I like this sort of modern look, whatever, I think the best thing to do with any property is always sort of remove the emotion from it. That's especially when you're wanting to make money out of property. You really want to go in with no emotion. What you want to be doing is going in and making sure that what you're doing is going to appeal to the most amount of buyers possible. So you're going to be looking for things like, dare I say it, neutrals, find a really, a decent sort of, mid-color sort of type carpet, keep the walls nice and light. There's a classic rule of, dark takes away and light gives. So you want the place to feel roomy, spacious, comfortable, easy to live with, easy on the eyes. People can walk in and instantly see themselves moving in. When you over-personalize things, people walk in and go, well, that's not my taste. I've got to change that. They start looking at the negatives and they start looking at the things that they need to change.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at the actual bones of the tree and does it actually suit our lifestyle. So,
and the second they see that, that's cost, right? They're seeing money they already have to spend.
Exactly. And so you want to remove that from the equation. So I always say, just take the emotion out of it when you're doing investment property and just keep a really steady grasp on what you're spending. It also is area dependent. So depending on what postcode you're in will determine really how much you want to spend and what kind of level of specification you're going to go to. Obviously, if you're in a high value area, you're going to put in decent fittings, nicer door handles, maybe nicer sinks and better tapware, yada, yada, because those are the types of buyers you're going to get in those areas. Whereas if you're looking at low income, areas, people really don't know what they're looking at, to be fair. So that's when you go to the suppliers, you find the end of line stuff and you put the Chinese tapware in. I mean, everything's, do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it's one of those that you're going to cut your cloth accordingly depending on the area that you're going to be in to maximize the amount of profit. Don't have any emotion about it. Keep it as contemporary as possible to appeal to the most amount of buyers that are going to be coming through the door, and they want to come through and they want to know, right, okay, what do I need to change? Okay, very little. Cool, this is a great property to buy.
And it's probably fair to say that too, when it is, if it's a renovation for your own home, but possibly not your forever home, keep that lens on of future buyers, right?
Absolutely.
Like make it nice for you, accessorize it with your stuff that you like and it's going to make you comfortable. But when you move out, leave it as a kind of a nice blank canvas for them to make it theirs too, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, I think even with all of my properties, I mean, I personalize them with things like my art, my furniture, those sorts of things. Those are the pieces that I always take away with me. So, the shell structure is always very simple, contemporary, beautiful wood floors. I do a really nice stone in the kitchen, decent cabinetry, nice tapware, all those sorts of things, some interesting tiles in the bathrooms, a good quality carpet, nice drapery, good aircon. Those are the type of things that are going to remain in the property. So you've got a thing called a hard fit out, and you've got a soft fit out. So I always think about a hard fit out. So imagine if you took the house and you turned it upside down and you shook everything, it's everything that stays.
Like a Lego house.
And then there's the soft fit out, which is all the furniture, the art. So if you turn the house upside down, everything that falls down is all the stuff you take away. Yeah. So you always want to go into it with a hard fit out type mentality that everything they put in, it's going to be staying. Where can I save money, make it the most contemporary, have it the most symbols, appeal to the most amount of buyers, because everything else is aesthetic.
Totally.
Choose a simple sofa. You could always get someone, when you're selling the property, have someone come in and stage the property. It's relatively inexpensive. There's a ton of different suppliers out there nowadays. You can usually carve out a pretty good deal for however many weeks you need. And it fills those spaces. And it's all about getting the buyers through the door and appealing to as many people as possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Some rapid fire questions to wrap it up. Best renovation hack that can make you the most money quickly?
It's renovation hack, cosmetic. You can't go past a good brick and tile, easy peasy. They sell all day long. They're stable, structurally sound, all the rest of it. And all you need to do is paint, lighting, carpet, give it a good tidy up, a bit of landscaping. You can spend a minimal amount of money and you'll get a really nice return.
Nice. Worst renovation trend right now. Is it still naked timber shelving? I've watched enough of The Block to know that you hate them.
Just kill me. Look, I think in terms of design trends, I mean, I've never been one to really follow trends or keep an eye out on that sort of stuff. I always think it's always best to just keep it simple. The KISS method, keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
Don't do anything that's too decorative. Don't try and personalize it too much. Like sticking shit on walls that you don't need. Like actually make things practical and functional, and stay away from trend because they come and go. It'll instantly put a date on the house. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh God, well, those are really trendy back in such and such a time, and then a buyer walks in and goes, oh God, well, I would get rid of those because they're not current, so just keep it really simple and keep a palette. It's a nice clean palette, decorate beautifully with good furniture and art, and take all that with you and do it the next one. I think the best guidebook would be to create a bit of a recipe. These are the colors we use. These are the carpets we use. This is the lighting we use. This is the tapware we use. This is the kind of things off the peg that we use. Create a formula and just repeat it.
Nice. And what's one thing that every home should have?
I'm not too sure. It's a hard question. I think there are so many things. Like, for example, like even in my place in Sydney, there's no like hose on the deck. You want to have access to things that are nice to make life simple. So like a hose attachment, things like that. You've got one in the driveway, you've got one in the back garden, those sort of things, good exterior lighting, light up the garden. Like I think it's always a nice thing that at nighttime, you spend so much time at home at night, is to have that really nice vista into a garden that extends the visual eye to make the property feel bigger. And so by illuminating a garden at night and having nice viewpoints or vantages from the different areas of the house is a really nice way to build on that plot and create a nicer impact from day to night. So I think that's a really good little ticket as well.
I don't have the budget for it yet, but I've spent probably $100K in my head talking to you. There's a lot of stuff I want to do to my house now. Jason, I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much. I hope our listeners are going to take something from that and go and make some money. What does your ideal retirement look like? Picture it, and Enable Me can help you achieve it. From financial coaching to strategic advice, they've got you covered. Pay down debt, grow your wealth, and retire well. Head to enable.me to get started. So that's the design side. What actually adds value, what's worth doing, and what you should probably leave alone. But knowing what to renovate is only half the job, because the reality for most new homeowners is you've just bought a house. Your savings probably took a massive hit, and suddenly the list of expenses is growing fast. Rates, insurance, maintenance, and now renovations. So how do you create a plan to pay for upgrades without blowing up your finances? To talk us through it, Enable Me financial coach Shelley Palman is back. Well, Shelley Palman's back in the studio. Do you like what we've done with the place?
I love it. It's very chic.
It is chic. We've renovated.
Real wood too. Very impressed.
Thank you. Look, we're talking renovations. People buy a house and suddenly realise how many costs come with it, but they've got that dream that they want to just add to it and make it their own and hopefully add some value. But you kind of, in my experience, that first year can come as a bit of a shock, particularly when it's your first house. What does it usually look like for people who have just bought a house financially? There's a few surprises. They shouldn't be surprises, but costs that might take a bit of a toll and prevent you from getting stuck straight into a reno, right?
Yeah, I think so. And like, we're a nation of DIYs, right? So we want to get into Bunnings and Mitre 10 and just go hard and get a new doormat and, like, do all of this.
And we do.
Got to get a lawnmower and, a little rotary hoe or whatever you need. And those little bits can actually mount up. So people tend to get really excited when they first move into their first home. They really want to do it up and buy some stuff. And so I think you've got to get that out of your system.
Yeah, it's okay, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Like, it's a massive, massive achievement to get on the property ladder. So why not?
Yep.
So once you've got that out of your system and you cope with the fact that you've got rates, you've got insurance.
Yeah.
We've now got a heat pump that needs to be serviced every year, all of that stuff, not to mention things going wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of people buy their first home as something where they might be able to add a little bit of value. And often you're kind of just reaching, right, for that bottom rung, and it's not going to be your forever home. So inevitably, there are renovations that may need to be done either now or into the future.
Yeah, okay. So if we are looking at maybe saving for a reno, that's kind of going to be tricky year 1, year 2, given that it's likely you've just dipped into your savings to buy this house as it is. And then all those costs that you've just brought up, the rates, insurance, all the et ceteras, will likely prevent you from contributing to your savings as you were before you moved in, right?
100%, yeah. And I hopefully, you've been saving for the deposit and you've gotten into that regular habit of saving. Yeah. So it'll just be a lot lower now.
Yeah.
With those mortgage repayments kind of factored into the mix. But I think there always needs to be that habit of saving. And there are some things that you can do to the house in a minor sense with renovation that you can kind of set as a goal. And I think as well, when you apply for that first loan, a lot of people always hold a little bit back. So it might be 5,000, 10,000. They know there's something that needs to be done. Hopefully they've got a little bit more than what they need in terms of the deposit.
Yeah, I see.
But don't forget as well, when the banks are lending to you, they are stress testing at higher interest rates. So there should be a little bit of space somewhere. Yeah. Not as much as you were doing before, but a little bit to be able to retain that habit. Yeah. And I always bang on about the habit of saving. It's not the amount that you're saving, it's the habit of doing so. Yeah. So I could care less if it's $5 a week. Yeah. As long as it's $5 a week.
Frequency.
And then you lift it, and you lift it, and you lift it when you get some tailwinds. So I think keeping up that habit's a really important thing for first home buyers.
You bring up debt. It's likely that if someone's going to want to do a reno to their house, they're probably going to have to borrow money if it's a significant reno, right? Like maybe a lick of paint on the walls you can scrap together with some spare cash, save up for a couple of months and you've got enough to paint a room or two. If you are looking at either a small, medium, large reno, how can you tell what your limit should be in terms of borrowing more?
Yeah, and most people are maxed out to start with.
100%.
Yeah, you just scrape into the 10, 20 if you're lucky. Yeah. In terms of that loan to value ratio that we see. So it's all about getting a plan around attacking the mortgage to start with, because we need to create space for you to possibly be able to borrow again to do that renovation.
And that's seen, like if I was to come to your office at Enable Me and I said, look, I want to do a reno, you're not going to balk at that because it can be a good idea, right? If you're going to add value to your asset and be able to sell it for more further down the track.
It's your biggest asset.
Totally.
So we have to maintain it and keep it at a certain standard. So
because to me, I freak out. I'm like, $200,000, that's a lot of money, but you as a strategic financial coach would go, no, that's you are investing.
That's it.
So long as it's done smartly.
Yeah, and there's a limit to how much you invest, and we're always aware of overcapitalising in the property.
Define overcapitalising.
So putting too much into it, or doing a renovation where it's really sweet for you and you think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I can't think of any examples.
Okay, so it's a brick 2-bedroom duplex, putting in a large swimming pool out the
or
back.
an internal sauna and spa.
Yeah,
kind of
or
thing.
digging down and
exactly.
putting in a wine cellar. Probably
That kind of thing.
overcapitalising, yeah.
That would be overcapitalising. So
Spending too much money on a house.
Spending too much money on a house.
Where you're not going to
that's
get the returns.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Exactly right. And potentially as well, when you're doing your first home, you may be buying in an area where that's not the final area that you want to be in.
True, yeah.
So you've got to keep a really close eye on the market and what's happening in that micro area to understand the value of the property, so that you make sure that you don't spend too much money on it, so that you've spent a lot more than the actual value of it and the surrounding properties that are of a similar kind of style to yours.
Yeah, cool. So creating a limit, I guess, deciding what your reno is actually going to be. Us, for example, we've spoken about maybe doing a small-ish to medium-ish reno in the next 2 to 3 years, and then maybe focusing on a larger scale one 5 to 6 years down the track.
That's
Is
it.
that kind of how we should be viewing it if we're in a more long-term place?
I think
'Cause
so.
This is our second home and we're kind of happy
that's
where
it.
we are.
Yeah, if you're happy with the area, I think you've got a lot of land, so it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense from a growing family point of view to do an extension or something like that. You're aware of the values in the area. It's not going to overcapitalise. So thinking about, well, how do we want our life to be? So we always come back to, well, what are your goals, in terms of family, in terms of yourselves as a couple? What do we want out of life? Do we really enjoy socialising? Can we do a few tweaks at a lower level to just extend the kitchen or knock out a wall where it's not going to be a massive 200 to, some people do $1 million renovations.
Yes, must be very nice, yeah.
But, can we do a couple of little tweaks in the short term that we can actually save up for and make that a savings target? And I think from a motivation point of view, that is motivating, because you're love socialising, like having friends over where the kids can kind of roam around, and we've got this open plan island bench now that we can,
Or things like, I don't have to look at that cracked, awful driveway anymore. Now it's going to stay in one piece. It looks really nice. It makes our whole house look better because of one little thing over here.
That's right. And environment is so, so important. And I myself did a renovation last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Got through it intact mentally.
Yeah. What was the most painful
It was quite
thing?
a big one.
Yeah.
The most painful thing, I think, was the intrusion of other people in your home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something you kind of have to
It
budget
became
for
not our
almost, don't
home.
you?
Yeah, we could live through it, thankfully, although it was a kitchen and a bathroom. We had areas that we could kind of make it work. But the intrusion of, and tradesmen quite like to just sort of walk in. They see it as a building site.
It is. Yeah, totally.
So it's kind of like, okay, thank goodness I was out of the shower.
They're not working in your house. You're living in their building
And they start
site.
at 7:30 a.m.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
not quite my time frame.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can do that interim. Sometimes it's a case of, do I move actually to get what I want? Because if I do this renovation, it's going to overcapitalise and it's still not really going to be right, for what I want.
Yeah.
So when we work with our clients at Enable Me, we start to actually go, well, what's the baseline in terms of how quickly can we kill your mortgage before this reno?
Yeah.
Let's get that in place. And then we're understanding, well, if we add another 10 or 20 to do a little tweaky kind of a renovation, can you save up to do that? Or do we need to top up or get some extra money from the bank?
Yeah.
Assuming we've got enough equity in the
Yeah.
property to do so. Or is this a case of, this is actually going to be a 200 or
This
more.
is a major.
This is a major.
Yeah.
You probably are going to have to borrow. So sometimes we help them map out, well, this is the stage where we can do it, but here's what we have to do in those 5 or 6 years, in your case.
Yep.
To get to that slightly bigger renovation, you've actually got to be good now.
Totally.
But that's going to motivate you, right? To get to that
absolutely,
point.
because we want to see
Yeah.
an internal access garage and maybe an extra bedroom with an ensuite,
And that's going to add value.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
But in the
garaging,
meantime,
bedrooms,
which we can see on the horizon, and it feels great to think about, because
Yeah.
whenever I'm awake at night, I think about how I could renovate our house. It's just where my brain goes. But equally, I would probably start thinking about what's going to change day to day, because that's going to be a lot of debt to take on, and therefore repayments are going to change.
And we are sitting with a $1 million mortgage, so we've got to be super careful about this. And that's where we start to kind of get that financial plan in place, where we go, if you take on another $200K, that's going to add another X number of years onto this mortgage killing trajectory. And then you get to make the decision, is that palatable to me? Or I'd rather keep going on holiday. I'm just going to do a couple of tweaky things here. Get the kids through until they're gone.
And maybe look at the next house.
And then look at the next house. But making those decisions with eyes wide open as to the implications to your life. Because those things do affect your life. Because, potentially you can do a reno, but then you can never go on holiday for the next 10 years. What's the priority in your life? And that comes back to those goals. Is the priority, we suck it up, we make it okay. But, those are the decisions that every day as a financial coach we help our clients to understand. Do you want to do this or not? And you can go, do you know what? It's worth more to us as a family to have this entertainment area or this pool or this extra bedroom because of the sanity or the bathroom or whatever than going away on holiday. We're prepared to sacrifice for that to get this renovation done.
You spend a lot of time at home.
You do.
But equally, making memories is super important. And like you say, that's the priority you've got to work out as yourself or your couple, the team that you are.
And I do come home every day from work into my lovely renovated kitchen and go, thank goodness I did this, because I feel really good about being here.
Maybe let's look at photos of your kitchen, because I'm jealous of your nice kitchen. It sounds great. What financial mistakes do you see homeowners making when funding renovations? Obviously, overcapitalising is probably one.
I would say taking on too much debt. And just totally overdoing it, whether or not that overcapitalizes. Because I've seen clients do a massive reno to the point where they've got to sell the house, like your Grand Designs type thing. Like they spend so much money on getting it done, they can't afford to live there.
But then they've renovated
it. So sad.
Into a corner where it's so unique and just for them that no one actually wants it or can afford
it. There's that, or they've just got too much debt.
And
they cannot afford to live there anymore.
Bugger.
So I've seen that a couple of times. It's very disappointing, because to do all of that, to go through all that pain of the renovation, to have to sell the property because you can't afford the mortgage anymore.
What if there was a windfall involved and someone said, someone's died, the inheritance is yours, here's $200,000. Should I throw that straight into a reno, or am I smarter getting rid of some debt first while I plan the reno, saving a bit of interest?
You can chuck it on the mortgage. Exactly that. You can chuck it on the mortgage instantly using a revolving credit. That's going to offset, so you're not paying interest while you plan the renovation. Making sure, again, that you're not just putting yourself into a space where you're still not okay with your situation by taking that on. Sometimes that extra windfall is just necessary to get the mortgage down into a shape where you can actually afford your life.
Is there someone who can help with renos in terms of, obviously you can get a project manager, but that sounds expensive. Is there anywhere we can go where it's going to give us the information of like, this is all the stuff you need to consider, this is the order it needs to go in? I feel like that's a tool that would be helpful, particularly with the hidden costs, because there's probably council-y things that need to be sorted, right? In terms of, are you building too close to a fence, or
how many water closets are you allowed to have? How many sinks could you have in one house?
Because that's more hidden costs, just like moving into a house, that you can't just get a builder to start on Monday. Like, you've got to have your homework done,
I don't actually know the answer to that question, but that's kind of a construction industry question. But I do know that I did use...
Shelley,
I'm not the font of all knowledge dragon. For me, I actually used a project managed company. And in my mind, I'm not an expert on how to build or do a renovation. And I have to say, I had a work colleague who was doing a renovation as a DIYer, do it themselves at the same time. Mine was done in 8 weeks.
Sweet.
From go to woe.
No headaches.
No headaches. It was done to time, to budget. It was maybe $3,000 over budget. They're still going on their renovation.
No way.
And the hassle factor.
Because my penny pinching brain goes, manage it yourself. You'll save money, but
we're not experts in that regard.
We're not experts.
Yeah, I wouldn't try and sell a house myself.
No, and we've still got full-time jobs that we need to figure out. So having someone whose full-time job it is to do that makes way more sense.
And actually, I knew what it was. I was comfortable with the amount. It got delivered on time, on budget, and it was done.
And you slept at night.
Yeah.
And worked during the day and didn't have to take phone calls and
Yeah, and I think probably one of my bits of advice would be to get the lawyer to check over the contract, because when you enter into something like that, for mine it was a fixed price contract.
Nice.
And it was.
Okay.
And I've got a warranty. A tap started leaking and I was able to kind of get them to come out at no cost to fix that, something minor. But yeah, get your lawyer to just look over that build contract or that renovation contract, because there will be terms in there which just mean nothing to you and I.
Yes, yeah.
There can be some fish hooks that, maybe it's fixed price unless X, Y, Z. Yeah. So I think that's worth saying. But yeah, I preferred the full project managed thing. I understood the cost. I had modelled what that cost would be and how quickly I could pay that off. And it was done and I was happy.
And is that something you guys in Enable Me can help with making that comparison?
Definitely.
Help me budget my reno.
That's it. And it's, what does this mean to you? How many more years do you have to work for? Can you retire?
Yeah. Can a project manager fit
There's
into
always
this
a
budget?
trade-off, Reagan.
Yeah.
There is always a trade-off. And so the trade-off will be you may have to work longer or save harder or give up on a holiday or not replace your car every 7 years or whatever.
Yeah.
There will be a trade-off, any amount of money that you need to spend. So you've got to feel confident before you make that decision that this is the right thing for you and your family.
So you've bought the house, now the real work begins. But as we heard today, the goal isn't to renovate everything. The goal is to spend money where it actually moves the value of your property. Think kitchens, bathrooms, better layout, indoor-outdoor flow, a very Kiwi thing. And sometimes the simplest upgrades still make the biggest difference. A lick of paint, better lighting, some new flooring. I hope you've found something useful in this little 3-part toolkit. If you know someone who might need some advice when it comes to any part of the house buying process, share it with them. Hopefully we can help them out. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on the pod platform of your choice, and you can watch the full eps on Spotify and YouTube. Until you do that, I'll keep asking the question, where's my money? This episode of Where's My Money was brought to you by Enable Me. Make 2026 the year you stress less about money with Enable Me's financial coaching and strategic advice. Pay down debt, grow wealth, retire well. For more information, head to enable.me today.